I did lots and lots of past papers, guys. Don't kill yourself. You don't have to know the topics. Focus on your strength. Learn your strength to the bone, to the T. Without further ado, let's go straight into the video. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing great and I hope you're all having a fantastic day. As you can tell, I just got back from work, so I thought let me quickly sit down and shoot this video for you guys. So today I would literally be focusing on how I actually tackled the GPHC exam in terms of the studying aspect, what I did differently that made me to smash that exam the second time. So before I get into it, if you are new, my name is Esther. I'm a UK qualified pharmacist. I currently work in a GP surgery as a pharmacist. I share contents relating to my journey as a pharmacist. I share productivity content. I share study tips because of course, you know, I was a student, and I also share my lifestyle about how I'm actually going through every stage of my life, which is at the moment I'm in adulting, so I'm sharing all those things with you. So if you are new, welcome. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, what are you doing? You're going to be missing a lot. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also switch on your notification bell so you can always get notified whenever I upload a new video, so you don't miss out. So welcome. Without further ado, let's go straight into the video. I remember I did a video previously which I'll put up here, and I talked about how I moved from 20% to 80% in my GPHC exam, because as you all know, I actually had to do it the second time. In UK, you do your pharmacy and everything like that, and you have to sit a national exam to be qualified as a pharmacist. I did not pass the first time, and I had to do it the second time for me to pass the exam. So it was a journey and it was a roller coaster, so I thought I would bring you guys along and sort of tell you guys what I did differently. Some of you got your results not long ago in July, and some of you missed it by 2 points, 3 points, and it can be so frustrating, especially the calculation aspect. And the second time to sit the exam is in November, and then is in June again. So I know a lot of you have reached out to me, I've answered your questions on Instagram. It's getting to a point I feel like I can't keep trying to answer everyone individually because of time. I'm going to put things together where you can all watch it, and I hope it serves as a useful tool for you. Let's go straight into it. When I failed my exam, and I remember part of the things I mentioned before, I said I had to reflect. Part of my reflection was that, okay, how do I want to study this exam? Because it certainly showed that whatever I did in June did not work, and I have to resit it again. So what would I do to make sure that I don't go back through this traumatic experience of studying and studying and studying non-stop, and I just want to end this once and for all? So what I did was I focused on my way of studying. So in terms of study, the first thing I did was I had to make use of flashcards, guys. Anyways, before I say that flashcard, let me just put it out there, guys. Just do things your own way. Never follow or what other people say. Even sometimes things I'm going to mention in this video might not apply to you, but it can help you to sort of know what works for you when you're studying for the exam. So the first thing I did was I made use of flashcards. Flashcards are something that I've always used all my life, even while I was at university. So I did not know why I was not trying to revise for the GPHC the first time, and I did not even use flashcards. I don't even know who I was deceiving or who I was lying to. It did not work for me. So I had to go back to the drawing board and go back to what I used to do before, and trust me, it worked. And how I did my flashcards was that after going through past paper questions, I then review my answers. The things I get wrong, I actually write it as a question and answer on a flashcard, and I memorize it. Because it gets into a point that there's only so much content you can keep in your head, so I memorize it. And I think for me, I've always said that sometimes because I memorize something, it actually helps me to understand the concepts of those things. So the use of flashcards was a huge game changer for me. It's like an active way of learning instead of a passive way of learning, and it really helps. And I feel like with GPHC, you can't study passively for that exam. You need to be very active. You need to remember a lot of things. Sometimes you even need to memorize things because it's a lot of content that you have to learn in a space of 1 year. And because you failed the exam in June, you now have less than 1 year to sit that exam again. So you have less than 1 year to actually prepare. You have August, September, October, 3 good months to actually cram everything you've learned in a whole year into 3 months and pass that exam in November. So that was one thing I did. Another thing I did was I was now very strategic in topics. So let me focus on calculation because that was my weakest point. I had no issues per se with clinical. My weakest point was calculations, and I think that's the same issues with a lot of people that have reached out to me. But if not, I also, it's something that you can relate and also apply to clinical. So I was very strategic with my topics. So I knew that we had, for example, let's say we had like 13 different topics to learn on calculation. What you would notice that you have your strength and you have your weakness in those calculations. I was able to learn every other topic in calculation except dilutions. So I knew I did not understand dilution. I even got people on Instagram reached out to teach me and everything like that. Once they teach me, I learn it, I put it down there. But once they're gonna have to answer another question again, I'm like, what is this? I can't even apply what I have learned to another question, and it's just make me like literally lose my mind. So what I did was, which was a tip I gave to someone, I think the person actually passed the exam in June, was that don't kill yourself. You don't have to know all the topics. You don't have to. In as much as you know you have more strength in certain topics, learn those topics that to the point that when they wake you in the middle of your sleep, you would know how to answer those questions. That was my strategy. So I knew I had to learn every other topics except dilution. It's not like I did not learn dilution. I sort of learned, but it wasn't really like my cup of tea. I was focusing on the topics I had strength and kept on practicing on those topics. That is something I would really recommend. And when I got to the exam, of course there were dilution questions, but because I already, let's say out of 13 topics, I understand 12 topics. So what would the difference be if I don't understand one topic out of 12? There was not much difference, to be fair. So I was like, okay, even though there were 4 questions in dilution, I did not answer those questions. I left it. And by the way, there was 40 questions. Out of 40 questions, there is 4 questions I could not solve. So there is tendency that I've already passed the exam because I could solve any other questions that was given to me, because I already understood those topics in depthly. Focus on your strength. Learn your strengths to the bone, to the T. Very detailed with your strengths. And then your weaknesses, you can learn about them, but it won't be something that you have to waste your time on, because then that time you can spend it on something that you have more strength on. And it really works for me. And I would not lie, I also gave that advice to someone else and it works for them. So this is something that you can do. You can also apply this to clinicals as well. If there are certain topics that you know you don't have a lot of strength in, for example, like the low weighted topics and the high weighted topics, you can decide to learn all the high weighted topics and then focus your last 2 weeks on the low weighted topics. You know that it's just going to be 1 or 2 or 3 questions that's going to come out from the low weighted topics. So that way you're going to balance things up, and you know that at least you have more knowledge in your strength and your weakness. But even though you don't know much about it, it's not going to make a huge difference. You'll still be able to answer the questions, but if you don't get the answer right, it won't be a problem, because you've done more than enough to actually pass the exam. And like I always say, guys, the grade doesn't matter. That, oh, who got the highest, who got this, that doesn't matter. All you need to do is to pass the exam. So why not just focus on something? In as much as you pass the exam, all of us at the end of the day, we are all pharmacists. If you go and check the GPHC register and you check mine, no one is going to tell you, oh, this is what I scored, or this is what I got in clinicals, or this is what I got in calculation. Just do your best to pass the exam. So this was a strategy that I used, and that's really helped me. My third point is time saving techniques. So what I did was I had to work on my timings, because like I said, this exam is an exam of time, pressure and brain. You have to be very smart in these 3 things, because your time can fail you on the exam. Even though you know the whole answer, your timing can fail you. What I did in terms of timings is that when I'm studying, technically I was just doing past papers anyway. So when I'm studying on the day, I literally start my day. I don't start my day too early, depending on how tired I am. I don't, you know, people that do early risers, I did not do that because that did not work for me, because I'm more of a night owl. So, and I knew that I studied a lot into the night. So I wake up and I really start my study session like 11 or 12 in the afternoon. So what I then do is that I go through clinical and calculation. So calculation is the first paper, so I literally put myself in a zone as if I'm in the exam hall. So what I do is that, okay, I do calculations first, timed, but I make sure I time myself half of what the actual time at the exam is. even though I get extra time normally at the main exam, I made sure that when I was practicing, I did not input my extra time to it. So that I know that what I wanted to do was that I wanted to make sure that I have enough, that I want to use that extra time to review my work on the exam day, and in case anything happens, that extra time is there. So I sort of set up my brain in a way where I am doing my past papers in less the time what I would have done actually. So that way I was able to work my brain and system my brain to work in that time. I made use of a lot of things like Pomodoro technique. Some people you can use you can do 25 minutes of work and 5 minutes of break, 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of break. I did that when I was doing content, but with this exam I just literally sit with the calculations. I know it's 40 minutes exam for 40 questions. I think it's 40 minutes for 40 questions. I can't remember, it's been so long I did it. And what I did was I timed myself for that 40 minutes and I do it. But what I do is I time myself for 35 instead of 40, so that's okay, plus or minus something happened, I have 5 minutes extra. What can I do with that 5 minutes? So that is what I did. And the same with clinical, I applied it the same way. I never timed myself to the fullness, to the full time of the timing for the real exam. So that is another thing I did to work on my timing. You could do Pomodoro. And another thing that we did, some days where I feel like I'm so tired and I'm so drained, I don't have energy, what I did was I could do the Pomodoro thing, but what I did was I half the questions. So I could say, instead of me to do a full paper, I would do half of a full paper. So I would do like 20 calculation questions and 60 clinical questions. That way I've done half the questions and half the whole exam. So that way I still get to do something that day rather than not doing anything. So that is how I worked on my time. So when the exam day came, because I knew I had extra time and I have already worked to a tight timings for myself, I had more than enough time to even review my answers. I went back to review the whole 40 questions. I went back to review the whole 120 questions because I had enough time. And the reason is also because of being dyslexic. Sometimes you might write a number down, but your brain is picking something else. I might end up writing the wrong number down, even though my steps to getting that answer is right, but my answer, I might write down the wrong answer. So sometimes I look into things to make sure that I have transferred the right answers across when I'm doing my exam. So that is one way something I did that really helped me to ace my exam the second time. Next point is that I did lots and lots of past papers, guys. That was something I did not do. That was something different that I did compared to my first time. I think the first time I was just going through the content because you're just like, I don't know. If you know when you go through past papers and you don't know the answer and you got it wrong, that just gives you this panic mode that you don't know anything. You go back to the content and start trying to learn the whole content and everything like that. I went back to my roots of always doing past papers, because that's what I always did at uni. I did not even know why I tried to do the whole thing differently for my first seat. I don't know what I was trying to do, but I would say I've been guinea pig. I tested it. I had to go back to my roots of how I studied initially, which is always going through past papers and flashcards, as I mentioned initially. So I went through lots and lots of past papers. Anyone that has past papers like this, I'm like, please send it to me. Send it to me, please send it to me. And I went through everything. I would say out of the amount of past papers I had, I went through majority of those past papers. I'll say maybe it's only maybe 1 or 2 that I did not go through, and that was because I just can't be bothered at time. You know when you've already studied and you're like, God, take the wheel at this point. But before God take the wheel, I went through every past paper I could find on this planet. I went through all of it, I was able to go through them. And what I did with my past papers is that I had to study and go through past papers every other day, because the exam is intense and it's draining. It can be draining mentally. So I went through, like, let's say day 1, I will go through past papers today. I won't review it because I know I don't have the brain cell left after going through all those 40 and 120 questions. I don't have any brain cell left to review and actually learn from my review. So what I do on that day is I just pass papers, and while I'm watching maybe like a Korean drama or I'm relaxing my brain, I just go through flashcards to just look at what I'm, you know, when you just read and just like, oh yeah, I know this, you know, just try to remind your brain. And then the next day I review the past papers, because I've already marked them, so I already know what I got wrong. So I review those things, and then what I do with those questions, I then pick those questions, write it in my flashcards, and write the answers. And those are the things I go through on the day I go through my past papers. I don't know if that makes sense, but that is what I actually did. Going through past papers is something that really helps with GPHC exam. Going through content alone does not help. You have to practice a lot, like there is no tomorrow. You have to practice. If you don't practice what you've learned, trust me, you're gonna struggle. And the best way to actually ace that exam is past papers. This does not mean that GPHC repeats questions. They don't repeat questions, because can't even remember if I saw some questions that I went through. But the thing is that because it's topic based, isn't it? So we've gone through this topic, there is no way there'll be a question on that topic and you just answer it. So that way it helps you to learn the contents more, learn the topics more in bite size, and you'll be able to approach any question that comes to you. So that was something I did differently. And I literally, you know, when you go and sit an exam, I don't know if you guys have that feeling, when you go and sit an exam, you know that I've passed this one. You know, that's how I felt compared to the first one. The first one I knew, I mean, like, I was just like, it is well, God take the wheel, because I knew I did not do as well. My conscience knew it. But when I went for the second one, I knew I had prepared for this thing. God will take the wheel, but I've prepared for this thing as well. So I already knew the difference, because I went through more past papers compared to when I was revising for the first exam. And my last and final points, which I feel like you guys are not expecting, you guys would never think of this, is that have quality sleep. Yes, you want to be productive, you want to study, if you burn yourself out, you go back to square one and fail the exam. Yes, have quality sleep. I made sure I had enough sleep. Like I said, I am a night owl, so I study mostly at night, and I am more active at night compared to the daytime, which is why sometimes my revision time starts at 12, 1, 2, and sometimes even that day, even once I've done something till 3, so if I'm tired, I will have a nap and sleep, no problem, because I know that by night time my energy is gonna pick up and I will study. Because I'm studying at night does not mean I'm not having my full 8 hours during to meet up that whole day. We have 24 hours in a day, so I still meet up my at least 8 hours, if not full 8 hours. I don't have less than 6 hours of sleep while I'm revising for my second exam. Sleep was something, because I knew that the amount of brain cell that I need to sit this exam, you need to have a lot of rest, you need a lot of energy. It's like you are going to a battlefield. Literally, you need a lot of energy. So I made sure I had quality sleep, and I can never emphasize on this more, I can never stress this enough, guys. Make sure you have enough sleep. I know it's so easy for us to fall, or for you to fall into a rabbit hole of I have to pass this exam. Whether I die, I die there. Whether I live, I live there. I have to pass this exam. Guys, you're only doing yourself more harm than good. What will end up happening is that you're going to burn yourself out, get tired. Be a week, you just be like, I'm not picking up any book, I just want to sleep. Even there'll be a day just like, I just want to sleep. Don't do that to yourself. It will not do you any good. If you want to get the most of that exam and pass that exam, make sure you have quality sleep. Because what would happen on that exam day is that you are there, the exam starts at 9 or 10, you're there from 8, like 2 hours early, just because you also want to revise a bit, you know, be in the exam environment and just get your body to and your brain to get used to the environment and things. And you are there from that time, and you don't get to leave until like 5. And for some of us that have extra time, you don't get to leave until like 6, and by the time you are going back home is 7. Imagine if you're sitting exam from morning till 6 p.m. you'll be drained. It takes a lot of brain power to be able to sit and focus for that long to sit the exam. Of course, you have like a break in between your calculations and clinical, but trust me, that break is no break, because once you've done calculation, you don't even know how the calculation went. That break is like, Lord, don't let me worry about calculus, let me start preparing for clinical. So you are revising, so it's not really a break, so your brain is still functioning. So you need to have quality sleep to build up that energy as much as possible, so that you'll be able to deal with that pressure and that mental brain cell that you need to sit that tedious exam. Trust me, it was so different. I remember when I was sitting my first one, I think in the midst of my clinical, I think I still had 30 questions left. I was so tired. I would not lie to you guys. I never know how I passed clinical set. I was just picking answers. It got to I was just like, I just want to go. I'm not even reading again. I just want to go. I'm not reading because I was so drained and tired. I made sure I did not do that mistake the second time, because I already said I'm not going to do this exam again. This is now or never. So I need to do anything I have power over, anything in my possible power and my energy, to do everything possible to make sure that I help myself, I support myself in the right way to pass the exam. This is something I think you need to do. Alongside the quality sleep too, you are eating good. You are eating good, you know, fruit and veg, all the enjoy yourself, relax, you know, enjoy yourself. So I don't, sometimes in the evenings I look forward to watching a movie, because yeah, I can't come and die. You come and kill yourself studying non-stop back and forth 24/7. God will not allow us to run mad in Jesus' name. So please have quality sleep. It will help your mental health. It will help your it will even help your body to be able to go through that stress of that exam. And mind, when you're under exam condition, trust me, you're already stressed. So the last thing you want is adding more stress and escalating that stress. So that is something I would really recommend. And those are the things I did different when it comes to studying, specifically for my second GPHC exam, and that made me move from 20% to 8%. There you have it, guys. These are my 5 study techniques that I used to help me ace the exam the second time. And remember, it's not about studying hard, it's about studying smart. If you want to be productive, you want to make sure that, oh, your studying is productive, you have to be very smart with what you do. If not, you're just not going to get results. Because the main issue where everybody have is that, oh, I'm working this hard, I'm studying this hard, I'm not getting the right grades. It's because you are not doing it the right way. You have to be smart with your studying. It's okay to study hard, but if you are not smart with it, you're not going to get the best results that you wanted. So these are my 5 techniques, things that I did differently, and I hope you can pick 1 or 2 things and apply them. But always remember, like I always say, you have to think about what works for you. If what I have mentioned is what works for you, you can try it. Why not? Of course, I've given people these tips and they've used it and they've actually passed their exam. So all the best with you guys. Don't feel bad about failing it. It's not the end of the world. You have another opportunity to do it again, and you've got it. You're working so hard, guys, and you deserve everything that comes with this pharmacy journey. So I wish you all the best in your exam. Take care. Bye bye.